Welcome to another episode of Oleh at Large, Aliyah Stories. I'm really excited to interview Shawna Goodman Sone, who has started a organization in Israel to support the idea of summer camps. I myself am a summer camp former attendee. I loved going to summer camp. I went to 2 different ones and then was a counselor in one. My sleepaway summer experiences were really meaningful to me, both the ones in America as well as the Israeli summer camp ones. Those are more traveling, touring camps, though. Anyway, on with the podcast. Let's welcome our guest, Shawna. Thank you so much for joining.
It's great to be here.
Excellent. Let's jump in. So, Shawna, you came to Israel in 2015, and when you came, it was only supposed to be for a year. So what happened? What turned your temporary plan into something bigger?
My husband, Todd, who we met at summer camp, claims that he said on our first date that he wanted to live in Israel, and I never really listened to that. And for years, we were living in Montreal and in Canada, and then it was an amazing life, full of community and Jewish life and family. And he had this insatiable itch to be part of the story, and I didn't really understand what that meant. And we were going to Israel every summer and bringing our 3 boys and really trying to enter the community and, just by renting an apartment and not being in a hotel. And, that was amazing. But he kept coming back to me saying, I really want to live there. I really want to live there. And I loved being a diaspora Jew, and I had full meaning and belonging. And so I called his bluff. And that's what got me out of the house. I would never have moved to Israel because I wasn't looking for that experience, but I was looking to build resilience and to give my boys something different and to do something as a family. And Israel was always a special place, but I never even thought about living there. So that 1-year opportunity, how it was packaged, was very appealing. And we're 11 years later. Yeah.
What was the moment of that transition? So you're here in Israel for what, like 9 months, and then it's sort of thinking, all right, well, we could do this another year, or was it after the year you guys are like, let's just go full in and make Aliyah?
No, definitely not. Someone said to me when we first got here that, oh gosh, 1 year is definitely not enough. And you're going to see. And I was like, 1 year is a long time. I was looking at these 3 little boys and how am I going to get them to school every day? How am I going to figure out all the, messages and the WhatsApps? And I was like, oh my God, like a year, I don't even know how I'm going to get through the next day. And so, the moment that it all changed really was in the 4-month mark. And remember, it was January. And Stephen Harper, who was our prime minister of the time of Canada, who, God bless, was like a shining light, was coming to Israel. And I remember that the streets were lined with Canadian flags next to Israeli flags. And I had an identity moment where I just said, oh my gosh, I don't really have to pick. I can really be both. And look, my prime minister is coming here and he endorses this place that everyone around me calls home. And I felt a sense of belonging, but it was the furthest place from home for me. So that was a moment where I felt, oh, I can do this and still be Canadian and be living here in Israel. And that was a turning point where I said, why are we going back so fast? This is so much fun and this is so stimulating. And we were all learning at a crazy pace. And that was where it was like, well, maybe we should extend. And that was my turning moment. Because it does take a lot of time to get out of your life. It took us 9 months to get out of our life and, figure out where we want to live and sell our house. And well, actually, we didn't sell our house in the beginning. We rented our house and just trying to figure out how do you even come to Israel as an adult and 3 children to come, as a family year abroad. There's a lot of details.
Absolutely. And where did you land when you were in that first year, and did you stay there? Did you go from there? What was the trajectory?
We went directly to Ra'anana, which is usually an exit that one doesn't really know unless you know people here. And I was a mission junkie before this, so I had, hit the hot spots, but Ra'anana was never an exit I had gotten off until a friend of mine 4 years before we came moved here, and we spent a Shabbat here. And I was like, wow, this is a real community. This is a place that I can see myself belonging and relating to the values and just the sense of welcome. So that was a huge point for me.
And Ra'anana is definitely very Anglo. So lots of American Olim, lots of Canadian Olim. And you're originally from Montreal, right?
Correct.
So very different weather in Montreal, very different food. So the place that you landed in Ra'anana for the first year, did you then find a new place to live and a new school or a new neighborhood, or did you get lucky and where you landed, that's where you stayed?
We got so lucky because I had a friend here who was from Canada as well, and she pointed us in the right direction, and I related to her. So her school was, it was an easy decision where I was going to send our boys, the area that we wanted to live in. It just I took the advice of people who came before me. And that was the beauty, is that before I even asked the question, people wanted to help. And they put their numbers in my phone. And I thought it was so aggressive at the time, but it really were lifelines for me that everyone wanted a hand in our success of staying here. And that's really unusual to feel at 43 years old, as someone from the outside entering. But Ra'anana is a city made up of Olim. It's a city of not just Anglos, but French and Brazilians and it's Australians and Brits. I mean, there's a lot of Anglo here, but with a lot of different accents.
Right. Amazing.
But it's a very welcoming spot.
Yeah, it's funny. Israelis will do that. They'll grab your phone and just put their number in your phone and say, call me when you're in Jerusalem for Shabbos, etc. Yeah, it's a little weird, but it's very welcoming. So, okay, you're here. Summer rolls around, and coming from Montreal, where summer camp is huge, you realize, wait, there's no sleepaway camp here. There's nothing like that. And you could have just said, all right, well, I'll figure out what to do with my kids and we'll just do what the Israelis do. But you went a different direction. What did you do?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize it right in the beginning, because part of the deal of coming to Israel for the year with my boys was, but we're still going to be able to go to Camp Ramah, right, Ma? And I was like, of course, of course. And remember, I was only thinking we were coming for a year. So end school and then fly and meet them at the camp bus, and just sort of fit right back into life. Well, that's not really how it went, but our kids did go back to camp that summer. And then we ended up returning only a year later because unfortunately we had a death in our family. And so we ended up spending the year back in Montreal and then coming back the following year. So none of these stories are necessarily linear, but they, someone said to me the first Shabbat, you think you're here for a year, but you've just complicated your life. And I'm like, yep, it's a love that, just sticks and doesn't just go away. It's not a fleeting feeling, your connection here. So we came back that following year, and my kids went to camp. And then after the summer, all the friends come over. How was your summer? Everybody's shiny and taller and just really broader in every sense, And I asked them, how was your summer? And, well, we got by. I went away with my grandparents for a week, but I can't wait for school. And I had never seen kids wait for school and be excited for school, especially during summertime. That's so anticipated in North America. And I started asking the question, well, what does happen here in the summer months? What is even available? And I just started to dig a little bit. And I often find when you dig, you start owning solutions. And that was 6 years ago where I started asking the questions and speaking to people and listening to the challenges and frustration of what summer months mean to Israelis and the lack of programming. Just there's nothing in this space for some reason. So that's, when you're involved, I think when you're a new immigrant coming here, you want to be additive. You want to not just take, but you want to bring something. And I don't believe in being a missionary. I don't believe in cutting and pasting, but I do believe there's a lot of excellence from all over, that Israel is a very young country with a lot to learn. And I believe that bringing the idea and the ingredients and adapting them and make them Israeli has brought us the success where we are today.
So you realize that there's no strong summer camp or summer activity programming. So what did you do next?
What I did next was, I went to speak to as many people I knew in informal education here in Israel that are already doing fantastic work during September to June. But for some reason, the lights were off July and August. And I've learned that there's a ton of fatigue, there's burnout, and there's no thoughtfulness of summertime here. And it's not like in North America where your kid ends summer and starts the clock again and living for, the 10-2 or what they always say. So, there's no notion of that. So I started to just speak with organizations that were household names that are already doing this fantastic work of informal education with kids, whether it's chugim, like after school programs, youth movements, and asking them, how would you feel about turning the lights on in the summer months and creating a new model that involves sleeping over. And sleeping over in Israel, the max is usually 2 nights. So I'm asking for 9 nights, which is, like a crazy meshuga woman. But I really do believe that magical things happen when kids live together. And these bubbles of belonging, these bubbles of community, these bubbles of friendships that a day in camp feels like 5 months in real life. And a lot of issues can be not only repaired, but restored and also developed during immersive experiences. So that's what I was pushing, the magic of immersion and especially now, after COVID, the war, the splintering of kids who have been uprooted from their homes, from the north, from the south. And, the most obvious is the biggest addiction to our screens and our cell phones. And unfortunately, Israel is winning that. We are the most addicted nation where our kids are getting it at the youngest age. So that is a panic for me. So I really feel that these summer camps are a great antidote. I welcome more ideas, but I'm starting with this.
So what did you do? You started your own summer camp? You started No, you didn't start your own summer camp. What did you do?
I am not a camp director. I'm someone who loved camp. I am like Joe Camper, but I'm not an educator. I'm not a camp director. I was a counselor where, I met my husband. But I started to speak with the field, and I realized that I also sit on the board of the Foundation for Jewish Camp in North America, which is the umbrella organization that supports all Jewish camps in North America. So, providing scholarships and capacity building grants. And so I basically said, I want to create an umbrella here, which is not a normal structure here in Israel. And it's not because there's not a lot of rain. It's just this whole idea of coalition or collaboration is not a very typical model. And I invited them all to a lunch and Ben Shemen Youth Village, and just to introduce my idea of summer camps, what it can look like, and this 10-day, 9-night model. And it was an interesting day where Why does this Canadian care if we talk with each other? Why does this Canadian giving us lunch? This is never going to work. Why does she care what Israeli kids do? And it's only going to be a one-year thing, or a lot of suspicion. But, slowly, and, providing opportunities for excellence, that they are not alone. When I entered the field, there was already people doing summer camps. I did not invent this here. There was already 8,000 kids attending summer camp, but there's 1 million kids doing nothing. So, and believe it or not, many of the camps that were already happening were from returning shlichim that worked in overnight summer camps in North America, Israelis. So it's a wonderful...
Wait, let's define what a shlichim is. What's shlichim?
Is Israelis who go to North America to bring Israeli culture and language and tarbut and shira and singing and ruach to the schools, to the communities, to the camps. So they had that experience that the Jewish agency sends all these shlichim. Shlichim is like messengers, I guess, is the direct translation.
And ruach is spirit.
Ruach is spirit, and all the shira is the singing. And the ROI is that they come back to Israel. And what they did was that we want this to happen in Israel. And they built these beautiful summer camps that have been in business, but they're servicing 90% of the clientele are Olim, because they actually know when you say going to summer camps, what is
They know what that means.
Exactly.
So after that initial session, was there a take-up of the idea? Did people go out and make summer camps?
Well, it's not so easy to go out and make a summer camp, because as you see, everything here has a cost, and it's usually like triple the cost. And even people said to me, Shawna, it's cheaper to put Israeli kids on planes to Eastern Europe than to do a camp here in Israel. And I said, I refuse to put kids on planes, and Israelis have a responsibility to take care of Israeli children here in Israel. And that is a very strong feeling for me, especially now when life is so uncertain and we need to restore our trust in this land and belonging in this land. So I insist on the camps all being here in Israel. So the camps didn't start building camps right away because it's a challenging model. And remember, I was introducing something new, and the whole concept of sending away your child for 9 days is not normative here. So just like, well, Shawna, how about 5 days? I'm like, nope, I want 9 days. And a lot of wariness around this idea, because remember, Israeli parents send away their kids at the age of 18 to the army. So this idea of sending them away for more than 3 days gives them anxiety. So, and who am I? And, what are you doing? Where are they living? What are they eating? How are they sleeping? All this stuff that we take so for granted is, I had to be learned to take with great seriousness and build trust. So, and trust is the operative word with any time you're dealing with any issues or programs with kids. And they're our most precious commodity. And to provide assurance, we needed to build trust. We needed to really spell out and describe and assure the families that what we were providing and the access and the opportunities that the kids would be gaining. And this takes time, but I think, I don't wish COVID on the world, but COVID accelerated our cause and our mission, because after COVID, every parent wanted a place to put their kid. They were addicted to their phones. They had no social skills. They were isolated. They were depressed. And summer camp was the perfect antidote to reclaim their childhood, to provide them regular social skills that we take so for granted, giving them fun. And I can't say enough about the simple word of kef, of fun, that our kids are entitled to. And it's on us, the adults right now, to provide these safe bubbles of fun that are nourishing and give kids the opportunity to be kids. So COVID definitely accelerated that for us. And we were a centralized address for all of these informal educating amutot, these NGOs that were working with kids of trying to navigate this nowhere's land when no one knew what was open, what was closed, what was allowed, what was not allowed. And we were holding all of the rules for that. So that gave us a lot of strength. And now we have the war and we have all the evacuation. So since I started this, it's comical of how the matzav, the situation has changed every summer. Poo, poo, poo. I hope this summer is smooth and uneventful. But, God bless these organizations. Through all of this, nobody canceled. And to the last minute, they held out to open up. Even and filled their machsan, their storages, and filled their fridges to the last possible minute. And last summer, I'm happy to say that out of our 28 sessions of 10 days, only one of them didn't run, and that was the kids from Sderot, when the Iranian missiles. So I think that's pretty fantastic, and kol hakavod to the informal educators in this country who are so deeply committed to this next generation.
So your organization then facilitates the creation of these 10-day programs, and the name of the organization is Summer Camps Israel, right?
Yeah.
So what is like the day-to-day life of a camper here in Israel? So they go away for 10 days, 9 nights, but like what's a typical day of a camper? So for anyone that's interested to maybe send their kid.
Well, it's, first of all, this whole notion of taking care of yourself. And, I know that, I've been a counselor and, when kids come, they don't even know how to make their bed. They don't even know how to keep their stuff organized and have agency for themselves, that they're okay without their parents. And they're able to embrace a whole new family of your bunk, of your Eidah, your section, and your camp. And that gives great strength to a child, that they can stand on their own 2 feet without their phones, because all these phones are not allowed during the day. So that's huge. That's really, really huge. So camp starts with waking up and brushing your teeth and making your bed. And some of the camps have tefillot, some of them have flagpoles, some of them have, yoga, or some, have a special, morning cheer. And then they have breakfast together. And they learn what it's like to sit as a group and, and learn how to pass things and take responsibility and clean up. And then they have chugim, they have sports, they have art, they have music, they have, they go from one program to another, and they have structure. Mm-hmm. And the structure, is what fills their days and builds memories and builds conversations. And the day flies by. And it's laughing with friends and figuring it out, and then, of course, the notion of sleeping out of your house. And that's where the difference is from a kaitana, from a day camp, to a machane kayitz, to an overnight camp. Mm-hmm. And, at nighttime, everything gets a little bit more anxious and, and stuff. But they live together, and some people live in srifim and bunks. Some people live in, many of our camps are in youth villages. They're in kibbutzim. We recycle. Well, I wouldn't say recycle. We upcycle. We repurpose every bed that's not being used during the summer, and we create these little communities there. So it's a very structured day and a lot of skill building.
How many sessions are planned for this summer?
We have 28 organizations running 47 programs of 10 days. And we have spots for 16,000 kids.
Incredible. Wow.
So we're adding an additional 8,000 campers.
Okay, so you're doubling it. Amazing. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And we provide scholarships. So when you ask me what Summer Camps Israel does, not only does it do excellence for networking for the field, but for the parents, we provide scholarships just like One Happy Camper does in North America, because I really believe in the power of sampling something. And also the cost. Israelis are not used to putting aside shekels for summer months. And like I said, things are expensive, renting a bed and, having food, and the counselors need to be paid. Everything is rented. Everything is outsourced. So everything has a cost.
And so what do you hope that kids take away from their camp experience?
I really hope that kids come away with the sense of, I can do it on my own. I'm okay. That sense of resilience, coming back with a whole friend group that is different from what happens during the year, but beautiful being in Israel that we all share the same calendar. So these opportunities for meetups, whether it's on Purim or whether it's a Shabbaton or whether it's Hanukkah break or Sukkot break, we all have the same days off. And they have a friend in a different part of the country who is different than who they live around, in their city or their town or their moshav or their kibbutz. It's really about bringing diversity together. That diversity is exciting, and it's not something to be afraid of, but it's something to embrace.
It's a question about that. So I went to camp in America. I went to summer camp a couple times. I was a summer camp counselor.
Nice.
And you wind up going to summer camps that your friends, or the people in your class go to, but then there's also other people from other classes and other schools. How does it break down here? Do you wind up with kids that all come from the same place and go to camp together, or do kids meet, as you said, kids meet kids from other parts of the country?
Kids meet from all different parts of the country. I mean, we have some camps that we work with the municipalities. Like we have a camp that works with the city of Jerusalem, and they bring kids from all parts of Jerusalem together because they're trying to build a stronger city and leaders in the city. And so we have a camp for 400 kids this summer for just kids from Jerusalem. We have 700 kids from Tel Aviv, and it's divided in both the northern part of Tel Aviv and the southern part. But there's so much diversity within their city. That's where they're getting that diversity piece of it. But then we have just general camps that, we have Camp Gesher that draws kids from the whole country, that mixes Chiloni and Dati kids, so religious kids and non-religious kids together.
Wow.
And that's a real something, where in this country it's pretty tribal, and people often don't get an opportunity to see someone who lives differently than themselves until the army.
Yeah. Younger people in particular, I would say. When I've encountered some younger people, it's very tribal. And then when you get into the army, all bets are off because you're just thrown in with whomever.
That's right. Right. Well, we're all honest.
And you're also not necessarily so prepared for it. And I think probably this gives kids that preparedness in a different way. Amazing. So what's next? But hopefully this summer all goes according to plan. What's your goal for summer 2026?
Oh, just more access, greater affordability. The hostages come out, no more war. And, I just want everybody who lives here, any kid between the ages of 11 to 16, to have excitement when they think about summer, and not something that they dread, but they anticipate, and that, new friendships are made and new connections for life, because this country is all about connections and friendships and relationships. And we're all in this together. So we have to learn how to live with each other. And I really feel that Summer Camps Israel is providing these little labs, these little micro communities to experiment and to provide the skills to love and to respect. And you got to start young.
Amazing. Thank you, Shawna, for being part of the podcast.
Thank you for including me.
No, my pleasure. So one of the things we like to do in the podcast is the word of the pod. So this is a word that exists here in Israel, whether it's Hebrew or Arabic or slang, a word that people use here that you wouldn't necessarily know if you didn't live here. So is there any camp-specific word that comes to mind that we might be able to introduce to the listeners?
Well, I think a general word that I was thinking about it's actually two words together. It's move on, may love, and it's not to be taken for granted. And I use this all the time because we're living in a time of great uncertainty, and I don't take anything for granted. So there's so many beautiful initiatives, beautiful people who are doing such incredible things here. And Zillow Move On May Love. It's not something to be taken for granted because we need all of these little bits to build this beautiful country of ours up. And so that would be my two words, I would say, from my gimel of all pun to add.
Amazing. All right. Well, Shawna, thank you so much. Thanks for being part of the podcast.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Oleh at Large, Aliyah Stories. I want to thank my guests and I want to thank you. Thanks for listening. Please give a like, give a follow, and catch you next time.